So it's not quite spring yet, yeah, but by far and away my favorite time of the year is spring. So I'm looking forward to that. But you can see the flowers are coming out, the days are getting longer. There's still a bit of snow coming apparently. Won't be surprised, this happens every year, like I said in a video that I made in the past. But we are here, doing it, getting results. Hey, cherry blossoms, very nice. So I'm an XRP fanboy, right, like many of you guys. But I'm not shy to sometimes express some things that I don't like. So this is one of those things. This is one of those times when I'm going to express something that I'm not really a big fan of. I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen or it won't benefit the platform, but I'm just not a really big fan of it, if you know what I mean. Because, I don't know, I think from experience, it's going to be a negative in some aspects anyway. I might be wrong, but, it's just how I feel. So before I tell you what it is, I'll illustrate it as usual with a little bit of a story. I was one of the first people to ever be on Facebook back in those days when it was by invite only, because I was in an elite university at the time, and it was a very elitist system. It was like by invite only. You had to be from an Ivy League, or over here in the UK, you had to be Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, something like that, right? So go figure where I was. Anyway, so I got on there. Interesting app, was great at the time anyway. I'm not on there anymore. Left about 10 years ago, over 10 years ago I left, because I wasn't happy with what Zuckerberg was doing with the data way back then. But I digress. And it's kind of related to what I'm talking about actually now. Also, I was one of the first people on other apps like Twitter, Instagram. The reason being, I was doing a tech-related degree at the time, so I was, all up in the techs, right? So I understood way before a lot of people, and way before those things went mainstream. Things like Instagram, Instamatic, Twitter, blah blah blah. So I have really old accounts on those things, right? But back in those days when those things were really exciting to me, it was because they all did different things, and a lot of them aren't or weren't actually social media apps back then. All of them were just apps that did funny things. Like, in fact, all of them weren't apps at all. They were like websites at the time, because it was prior to the app culture. So even when the tablets and things started coming out, you still had to go to like twitter.com or something on the web browser before the actual apps got developed, right? Anywho, so back in those days, they all did their own things, but they did them really, really well. So for instance, the YouTube app was for watching video and, posting videos, but it was mostly for watching, consuming content like that. Twitter was for sending very short strings of text, and that's what it did. Instagram was a photography app where you take an instant photo of what you were doing on the instant. You couldn't upload photos from other sources. You had to take the photo with the camera. That's one of the apps that actually became a thing because of smartphones. Facebook was an address book with links. That was it. And then as the years rolled on, something happened to each and every one of those apps called feature creep. Feature creep. And what that means is they started to expand, they started to grow, do more things, pick up more features. And before you knew it, all of those apps morphed into the same one app. Some of them started buying each other because they were basically doing the same thing, and now they were in competition with each other. So something like Twitter, which was just for sending strings of text as an update, and something like Instagram, which was a photo editing / photo sharing app, became the same thing because, Twitter included photos and then hashtags, and then Instagram included text and video, and they both included video. And then before you knew it, they had social media integration, likes, dislikes, upvote, blah, blah, blah. And then every single app be it Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Google Plus. Shout out to you if you remember Google Plus, and that's one from the past. And all those apps just basically became the same app. Oh, it's almost sunset. Can you see that? Beautiful sunlight against my face. Became the same thing. They did the same thing. They didn't have any standout feature. No more niches, no more specialty, no more specialization. And then they all just became this big blob of social media competing with each other. They lost their edge and just became generic. So, I just dumped most of them, because why would I be on one if one of those apps is doing all those things for me already? Now, how does this relate to XRP, the XRP ledger, Ripple, yada, yada, yada? Well, I'm sure you've seen the news that the developers are working night and day to bring forth smart contracts on the XRP ledger. Now, again, bigger picture, this is probably a good thing. And I understand why they're doing it, because it's going to bring forth a lot of liquidity, because it's going to bring a lot of development, a lot of developers, a lot of projects onto the XRP ledger. There are many things that want to come onto the XRP ledger right now, but they can't, because there's no smart contracts. The developers that opined just a few days ago talked about a light version that gives them the opportunity to at least experiment and dabble in that world first, just to see how it goes. But I think it's inevitable that this is going to happen. And when it happens, it's just going to be another Ethereum blockchain doing everything, jack of all trades, master of none, hopefully not. Especially if the smart contracts start to affect what it is that's great about XRP ledger, which is speed, low cost, and its security, because its consensus mechanism is different pretty much from every other available type that we have now. One of the reasons why some of those L2s are having problems, Ethereum, for instance, delegating responsibility to L2s, is because L2s, right? L2s are helping to compromise on some of the stuff that is slowing Ethereum down, and they achieve the speed boost and the lower fees they achieve by compromising on security, because by design there is a give and take in that respect. But when it comes to XRPL, there is no give and take in that respect. It's designed from ground up to be swift and very cheap, which is why it's in that prominent position when it comes to payments. Now, if the introduction of smart contracts jeopardizes this even in the most minute way, then it's going to start to eat away at the advantage of the ledger and why it's special, right? And this is why I'm not a big fan of it. And it's not just because of XRPL. I expressed the same reluctance, the same sort of negative sentiment when, the ordinals protocol and, making Bitcoin non-fungible in a way where you could inscribe onto it, and Bitcoin L2s and stuff. Like, while I don't mind products and projects plugging into BTC or the Bitcoin blockchain to better themselves, but changing the actual blockchain itself in a way that makes it more like Ethereum, so just you can compete with Ethereum rather than just staying pure and proof of concept like it's been this whole time, which is the whole point and why it's sort of the granddaddy, because it's been left so clean and pure. But when you start to mess with it, there's nothing that you can do with ordinals and all of that you can't just do with Ethereum, right? Ethereum is just as sluggish as Bitcoin, just as expensive. So why not just use ETH? Why clog up the already slow, snail pace blockchain that is Bitcoin with this stuff? I'm sure that Brad Garlinghouse and Adarati and all the developers and all that, I've given this a good thought, and they themselves won't want to hurt the blockchain and you know the engineers are geniuses, and they probably put a good thought into it. But because the XRP ledger is so fast and so efficient, I can't help wondering if they would be willing to compromise just a tiny little bit, you know, slow it down a tiny itsy bitsy, you know, make it a little bit more expensive, which will still be cheaper than most. You know, if the result is bringing in orders of magnitude more in terms of liquidity because of the projects that will come onto the blockchain once it has smart contracts. And for me, it's a bit of a slippery slope, because once you give a little bit in that aspect, then they'll give a little bit more. And before you know it, the XRP ledger will just be another Ethereum blockchain. You know, awash with memes and rug pull tokens all over the place. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section. No financial advice as usual. Do your own research, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.